Hey and welcome to Proper Horror Show. It is disgustingly hot here. I am probably dying. This is the second episode of Fails From The Crypt, and this isn't about dunking on a horror film. This is about taking a horror film that's got an awful lot of potential and suggesting improvements so that it can live up to that. It is very easy to criticize things, so what I like to do is sort of put my neck on the line by suggesting things that I think would make it better, and then you can judge my opinion accordingly. Now, as for this episode's film, it is a Stephen King adaptation. I'm sure we've all seen and loved a lot of those. And Stephen King films kind of have a reputation for maybe being a little thin. But I assure you, this film is a lot sparser. What? So Thinner is written and directed by Tom Holland, who we're having a bit of a moment with, aren't we? I think we're having a moment. You may remember I put out a couple of videos about how Tom Holland included some really interesting gay subtext into Fright Night. With Thinner, it's probably a bit of a change of pace and up.
I want a whole new wardrobe to go with my new look, so you might want to...
Well, let's do it.
Oh. Okay.
What's your name?
Spurton. Frank Spurton.
Okay, Frank Spurton. Check it out.
I mean, his name is Frank Spurting. This is not a stretch. The plot of Thinner is very straightforward. Our protagonist is an obese and not particularly likeable lawyer by the name of Billy Halleck, who one night is driving distracted, let's say amorously distracted by his wife, and he crashes into and kills a gypsy woman. The gypsy tribe then puts a curse on him which causes him to effectively waste away. He is initially delighted by all the weight he's losing, but when he sees that it's not stopping, he realizes he's got to remove the curse before there's nothing left of him. That's the plot. Very simple. You know, I joked about the gay subtext earlier, but that was actually a major problem for this production. Tom Holland was trying to get this film made for years, but the executive producers were looking at this main plot of a character wasting away, and they were really concerned that the audience were going to think that it was a metaphor for the AIDS epidemic. I mean, given the timing, you can actually understand that. And really, this is an incredibly powerful premise. This person just wasting away on screen. It's an amazing body horror concept, and it's got a lot of metaphorical potential. And in addition to this very powerful premise, there is so much that works in Thinner. The casting is very decent. The protagonist, Robert John Burke, the actor playing his wife, Heidi Halleck, I also really liked. And heck, even this small pharmacist does a very good job. As you'd expect from Tom Holland, it's very pacey, the plot doesn't waste any time, it's actually quite a short film, and also there is a lot of very fun dark humour.
Oh, sorry, Billy. Carrie can't come to the phone right now. Yesterday he drove his Lincoln into a gas truck. A happy ending of sorts. He always did want to be cremated.
However, Thinner has some major problems, and if I'm being honest, it's probably a 4 or a 5 out of 10. But if we can fix those problems, I see no reason we couldn't be getting something really good, maybe an 8 or a 9 out of 10. So, let's look at those problems. I'm also inevitably going to have to go into quite spoilery territory, but I'll also note that obviously the content of Thinner is someone getting very dangerously thin. If talk of that kind isn't your thing, then you can skip the video. No one's gonna judge you. Problem number 1, right at the start. What a rookie error, based on a book by Stephen King. Don't you know Richard Bachman wrote that? I know their style is similar, but you know, what a rookie error. Terrible, terrible. The second problem is utterly pivotal, and I'm gonna call it the Ben problem. You see, the whole source of the horror is that Billy Halleck has to go from super dangerously obese to super dangerously underweight, which means he has to really embody that transformation, and the film never really achieves this. This is partially an indictment of our current culture, as it is the film, but you see, in the age of my 600-pound life, this ain't fat enough. I need fatter. If you looked at this guy's BMI, Those are rookie numbers. You gotta get those up. The more dramatic this transformation is from super dangerously obese to super dangerously underweight, the more effective the film is. Now remember, modern audiences have seen Christian Bale's transformation for The Machinist. They've seen what Anne Hathaway did for Les Mis, and they've seen Javier Botet in So Much. And I know Javier Botet's situation is very different. He has Marfan syndrome. Nevertheless, we are seeing Thinner in an age where we have also seen those characters, and just in comparison, Thinner never goes far enough. But modern culture can't entirely shoulder the blame here. There are some problems on the actual production side. Robert John Burke did lose £20 to play the role, but according to the infallible source of information that is the IMDb trivia page, he got as low as £160 when Billy needed to be £120. There's only so much you can do with effects, and connected to that, apparently the effects crew did plan much more gruesome effects for the final stages. They decided the original effects were too gruesome, so they redesigned it. And look, if you pull your punches, it's not going to hit as hard. This would be a major thing I'd fix, because it works against the script. When you get this line...
I've worked with cadavers in med school that look better than you do.
Billy needs to look as gruesome as possible, and I'm sorry, this just doesn't do it. They needed to go further. The other large and obvious problem with this film is the portrayal of gypsy culture. And look, the portrayal of any group is... That's a sensitive matter, okay? I don't want to see any groups demonized, I don't want to see any groups lionized, and I think it's kind of pointless to homogenize them. Like I said, it's a tricky balance. Thinner, weirdly enough, decides to both portray gypsies as persecuted and put upon, and also validate pretty much every stereotype against them, so... Good choice. Yeah. You might want to rethink that one. Of course, it's probably understandable to question even using the Gypsy Curse trope in modern films if you were to remake Thinner, as I think you probably need to. I think it can work, and I've got a fix to make it work, but we will get to that later. Now, there is actually a good reason to keep on using gypsies in the film, because a large part of the plot revolves around Ben needing to find them in order to remove the curse, and well, if he's used his legal connections to force them to move on because they've been a nuisance, well, that's a certain nice natural irony. There's also a subplot about him suspecting his wife of having an affair. I felt this was kind of weak, and his initial suspicions kind of start absolutely out of nowhere. He gets scenes that would validate the suspicion a bit later on, and that's probably a strong way to start it. Problem 4 is the generalized problem of missed opportunities, and I am very much nitpicking here, I know, but I know you guys love it. So for instance, this scene here with the creepy toys, it has great potential, but it is delivered badly. These toys are very creepy, they're meant to represent him, but if they are meant to represent him, then the toys should progressively deteriorate as he does. She should start by selecting a toy that looked like he did at the beginning, and as she moves along, the toys should be getting more and more skeletal to sort of forewarn him about how things are going to go. And also weirdly, for a body horror film, they really miss the opportunity to sort of disgust us with his eating. You know, the close-ups of gross noises, that had some potential. They kind of hinted at it once, but they never really went for it. And then we come to this scene, the pie scene. And hey, is that the same lighthouse as Needful Things? Bloody is. The trouble with this scene is the editing and the direction. This is the nadir for Billy Halleck. Like, this is his lowest point. He is as thin as he's going to get, and he's basically dragged himself to this meeting spot. It's his last chance to get the curse removed. If the leader of the Gypsy Lemke tribe will turn up, he can get this resolved. This scene has to be all about his desperation, about it being his last chance. Like, he gets there, he collapses on the bench, he passes out, and it smash cuts to Lemke being there. Unfortunately, that I think was a weak directing decision. There's a weak directing decision because this scene is about tension and desperation. That's where you want to do a long take. You want to stick with it. Long takes naturally increase the tension. Imagine if the tension had built up more and he slowly appeared like Omar Sharif in Lawrence of Arabia. Look, I know this is a film with a magic pie in it, but that would have had some gravitas. Who doesn't like gravitas? That is essentially the finale of the film. It's a resolution of the main plot about whether or not Billy gets the curse removed. So everything that follows after kind of feels a bit more like an epilogue to me. I'm not going to spoil the actual ending, but I would say it feels a lot more lower stakes, something a bit more suited to like a TV short. I don't like it. I think it needs a major rewrite, and well, I didn't exactly feel prepared to do a major rewrite of a Stephen King story, but now I feel I've got what it takes. That's such a terrible joke. So I have something that I think fixes the problem of the Gypsy Curse being kind of goofy and also still makes the most of really very powerful imagery. I mean, a man just being eaten up inside. Basically, the curse can't just be a curse. There has to be a bit of symbolism here. There are many ways you could go with this, but to be honest, I figure you might as well just go for the most obvious one, the one that suits most, the one that's hiding in plain sight. I had the idea of the curse being the cover story, effectively, the delusion that Billy comes up with after the car crash. The idea is basically that the trauma of the car crash and the guilt that he rightly feels for pulling strings to avoid any real punishment, that activates or reactivates an extreme eating disorder. Now, you have to be sensitive and careful about this because, you know, eating disorders are real, they wreck lives, but I think this has a power to actually make the film deeper and also add a heck of a lot of pathos to it. One of the major facets of eating disorders is denial, is covering up, is refusing to see the problem. It's one of the things that makes them so darn difficult to treat. So Billy, because of his prejudices against gypsies, would end up leaning on this idea of the curse as a cover for what's going on here. It would give a second reading to him avoiding doctors, to avoiding going into a treatment facility. You also see him eating intensively throughout the film, binging, if you will. And you could then show the other side of that, show him purging or making himself throw up after these binges, making you reevaluate everything that you've seen. You could see from his wife or daughter's perspective the other side of it and complete the picture. And I think you can do this without being too M. Night Shyamalan about it. Thinner isn't a subtle movie, but I think this is something that could actually add a lot of value, a lot of pathos to it. I'm also aware that this basically makes it The Machinist again, but you know, darn it, I like that film. Those are my fixes. That is how I think you make Thinner a better movie. I'd be really interested to hear what you thought in the comments below. That's all from me this unbearably hot and humid week. If you enjoy what I do, please do subscribe. I am a tiny channel. I recently passed 100 subscribers. I know that is tiny in the scheme of things, but it really made my week. I was chuffed. That's all from me for now. Tschüss, y'all.